Well, let's take a break from all of that and just think about something beautiful for a minute. An orchid. When you think about orchids, you probably think of maybe a beautiful corsage or a delicate tropical flower, but did you know that several varieties of orchids grow wild in Idaho's backcountry? Today on You Can Grow It, Garden Master Jim Duthie takes us to a local greenhouse where an orchid enthusiast grows hundreds of different types of orchids in her greenhouse, and she says it's something that you can learn to do in your own home.
You don't typically find tropical orchids blooming in southern Idaho, but in Janet Christ's greenhouse, thousands of them are thriving. They may look delicate, but they're actually pretty tough. Orchids are some of the most beautiful and showy flowers on the planet, and a lot of our wildflowers in Idaho are actually varieties of orchids. If you want to learn more about orchids, we'll show you some now, and you'll find out how you can go to the Treasure Valley Orchid Society's show this weekend. Orchids make up one of the largest groups of flowering plants in the world, with nearly 35,000 species, and they've been around since the time of the dinosaurs.
This is a Phalaenopsis. This is a dendrobium orchid.
These two beauties are some of the grandest orchids in this greenhouse, but the ornate beauty of orchids has one main goal: to attract pollinators so that the plants can continue to grow and reproduce.
Orchids all have three characteristics. They have petals, and these are sepals, and this is a lip, which is actually a petal that's been kind of transformed into a landing platform for the bug.
That bug is the pollinator. It goes into the flower looking for nectar, and along the way it picks up pollen and carries it to the other flowers. Some orchids are pollinated only by a specific insect, and if that insect disappears, then that variety of orchid will disappear as well.
It's an epidendrum, and this actually belongs to the family of orchids we call cattleyas.
There are 25 to 30 varieties of native orchids that grow wild in Idaho's hills and mountains, but most orchids grow in tropical regions of the world. And here's something I didn't know. That's a vanilla plant climbing up this wall, and it's an orchid.
The vanilla bean is the seed pod of an orchid.
But how hard is it to grow orchids at home?
Phalaenopsis are probably the easiest to grow in the home, and it's what most of us orchid growers started with. They're big, they're showy, they're cheap. You can buy them at box stores, big box stores, grocery stores.
After the blossoms fade and fall off, the plant needs time to recharge before the next blooming season.
They need a good bright window, like an east window.
South or west facing windows are too bright and hot, and north windows aren't bright enough.
And then water, fertilizer, and the house temperature has to drop by 10 to 15 degrees every night through the fall for maybe a couple of weeks.
Soon a flower spike will appear, and the orchid will bloom again around January or February.
The Treasure Valley Orchid Society can offer them a lot of information about how to grow them.
Orchids can grow and bloom for a long time and may even outlive you. Janet has a tiny orchid from Costa Rica that's more than 60 years old, and it blooms every year with thousands of tiny little green flowers.
It is an obsession, sort of, a passion. It's a marvelous hobby. We're all willing to help newcomers learn how to do it.
And you might even find that growing orchids is something that will grow on you. For Idaho's News Channel 7, and You Can Grow It, I'm Jim Duthie.